York's classic rock, Q1043.
Jackson Browne is with us this morning here at New York's Classic Rock, Q104.3. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The first reaction that I had when I watched the video for Cleveland Heart from your new album, and I hope you'll excuse me for this, and by the way, in the video, you play multiple roles, but I saw you, Jackson Browne, an older man. Hey, I turned into one of those too. And then you opened your mouth, and out of your mouth came that same pure, magnificent, beautiful voice that we remember so well hearing as it came out of the mouth of a young man in his 20s. The rough edges, the ravages of age, they seem to have completely left that instrument of yours unaffected. It's just remarkable.
Well, that's kind of you to say it. It's not all gravelly unless I'm eating chocolate or something. It's not because at times when I sound like my older crew members when I speak, but singing. Well, I appreciate you saying that. I sing all the time. My voice has changed, I think, quite a bit. It's deeper, and I only know that because when I go to sing those songs, well, one, I have to lower the keys, but also to hit the high notes. But also, when I hear my records of even 10 years ago, I think, what? I'm singing really high, and I guess I could sing higher, so I did, But what happens now? Songs I write, I sing it just from a lower place, and I suppose it does sound the same. I mean, it's lucky for me. I can lower the keys, and it still sounds like I'm straining to hit the high notes, and I still get the low notes. So, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it
I mean,
looks to me, it looks
Shelley,
to me
Shelley, when you heard it, I mean, if you would have closed your eyes,
I was back in the 80s and the 70s.
And just heard a few seconds of that voice, that is unmistakably the one and only Jackson Browne.
To us, it hasn't changed, but I'm wondering, is it because you look like you take care of yourself? I'm wondering, are you still surfing? Do you watch what you eat? Because others have said, that impacts your voice, or are you just like the rest of us?
Like everybody, I try to take care of myself. I mean, it becomes an issue, becomes important, when you get older. I mean, you hope everything keeps working. Not when you're young, where you're bulletproof and you don't care what you do to your body or to do I mean, I sleep now religiously. It's like really kind of like, it's important, but you don't want to obsess over it. I mean, even if you do wind up talking about, your well-being with your friends. I mean, you wind up sitting here and talking about your communal aches and pains. But, that's one of the joys of growing old too. I'm in the studio right now with some friends of mine I've known for 30 or more years, and we're producing a record together that was done with an artist that died 5 years ago. So we're happy to be here. We're happy to be putting together his final recordings and making a sort of beautiful last album for a friend of ours that's departed. And what comes to mind is how long are you going to be here? You asked me if I'm still surfing. I don't know if I'm still surfing. What I mean is that the last time I went, I mean, it wasn't any good. I didn't paddle out, but I really don't know what'll happen when I do paddle out. I just thought about it this morning. Cracked me up when you asked me, because I thought, what happens if what if you paddle out and nothing works? Well, you drown,
Well, that's cheery.
Well, I don't want to be uncheerful or a downer or anything, but there is a bit of a sand in the hourglass quality to this new album.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. I think beside the question of how long will you live, is like, how long do you want to live? I mean, how old do you want to get to be?
Well, I wouldn't mind getting
like
to
this
be
discussion at all. I am not having any parts of this. My goal is to live to be 120, Jackson. I don't know about you. As long as I'm moving and healthy and I'm pushing it, you know, yeah.
Well, I heard Circle say something once about like, well, when he was about 79, and they ask you how long, how old, uh, how long do you want to, see who would want to be 80? He said, well, somebody who's 79.
Right. There's absolutely no question about that. And the person who wants to be 100 is the person who's 99, and so on and so forth. But Downhill from Everywhere is the new album. And I mentioned the video, which has a cameo from the young, extremely talented artist, Phoebe Bridgers, in it. It's a really fun song, although it's about the universal experience that we all have of having a broken heart. I mean, there isn't anybody alive that's been able to go through their life experiences without having their heart broken at one time or another, and in some cases, that that broken heart never heals. And that's basically the concept of the song, except you took it into a place that makes it really entertaining and amusing, in that you replace that heart that breaks with a mechanical one. Not just an artificial one, but one that looks like it could be under the hood of a hot rod.
Well, actually, the one in the video is made out of motorcycle parts. But I met a surgeon from Texas Heart and told him I was writing a song about artificial heart, and he said, "Oh, you should call it Texas Heart." I said, "Well, see, that would be a very different song. My Texas Heart would be that'd be more like a Toby Keith song or something." But he said, and he told me that there are no moving parts. He said they don't beat. There's nothing moving in it. So that wouldn't have been as much fun as the heart with the little gears and and it's also, I don't know if you noticed, but it's really huge. It's really abnormally big. It's in
Yes.
a large mechanical heart. It was really fun to do this because it's rife with metaphors. There's lots of the idea of solving all your problems by having a heart that doesn't really actually ever function in the way that we think hearts function. I mean, they don't ache, they don't break, they don't make mistakes, all that. But also the idea of taking that heart out, and when Phoebe agreed to be in the video, I thought that was really great. And then I thought, well, if she's going to be there, maybe they could hand my heart to her. I mean, it would be appropriate. You take this sort of used, worn out heart and hand it to somebody young, and that's what we do in life anyway. I mean, I think if it's what you do with your kids. You give your life to your kids. You wind up having kids, and then you live through your grandchildren, and you involve yourself in the lives of the younger generation, and that has resonance in a bunch of other songs on the record. A little soon to say, I wonder, sometimes I look at a busy intersection or somebody, of these people going to and from offices and young people. I think, how are they going to do this? What are they going to do with what we're leaving them? Not just an exhausted natural world, but also all the workings of all the civic workings of government and all the ways in which our society is sort of breaking down. I just wonder how they're going to continue with this. And those are the functional. These are the people with jobs, people who are going to and from work. And I think there's so many people who aren't. So I don't know. I think there's there's sand still in the hourglass, but it's
Well, Jackson Browne is our guest here at Q104.3. Of course, you're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but I think maybe more importantly, you're in the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And in fact, most of us in the world first heard your work as a songwriter when the Eagles recorded "Take It Easy." That was before we were really aware of Jackson Browne as a person, but already we had experienced music that came from Jackson Browne's mind and heart and soul. And as a songwriter, as well as a performer, you have been able to bridge the gap really between writing great pop hits while at the same time presenting a specific point of view about what's important to you through your lyrics to your listeners.
Well, that was the job when I started writing songs. I think that everybody in my generation sort of grew up with the Beatles and Bob Dylan and the Stones and a lot of folk music that really was the repository of the wisdom of the generations that had gone before us, and I grew up in the middle of the civil rights era and the beginning of the environmental movement, and there were a bunch of really important songs that really meant a great deal to me, that were part of a new a sort of a new way of coming together, of being together in the world. I think there wasn't social media, and there were no computers. You couldn't drive a car and talk on the phone at the same time. It was a very different world, and all of what I cared about was in the music, was in songs. So yeah, I think songwriters became those sort of spokesman for what we were all going through. What else, Jim? There were like, most towns had one, maybe two rock stations.
Mm-hmm.
LA had, say, three maybe, and there wasn't even, and when I'm talking about it was just the beginning of FM too. So everybody heard the same music coming down the same fairway in a way, so you hear all kinds of variety in music, which doesn't now happens. Now it happens to some extent in formats like AAA and where they really play a variety of things, but there are all these niche stations where people decide they like a certain kind of music, and then that's what they listen to.
It's rare to hear.
So what were those songs, Jackson, that got to you back in the day?
Well, okay, the Beatles, and but Bob Dylan wasn't really on the radio. When he got on the radio, it was a big deal because not only did he have, like, I only had a few songs of his. Like a Rolling Stone, of course, famously was like a 6-minute single, and everybody sort of, the pop world sort of discovered him all at once. But suddenly everybody else, the Byrds, Cher was recording the song, various people recording the song. So, but the songs that really moved me were like mostly they're folk artists, Dave Van Ronk and Buffy St. Marie. I just recorded on my, I put out, I guess it's on YouTube, because I do these songs, from home that I give to various fundraisers or virtual concerts. But I just recorded this song called Piney Wood Hills. And that song of Buffy St. Marie's has been in my head. I've been in my heart for 50 years. And I didn't sit around singing it ever, but when I decided to, it was right there in me. But the songs, the songs that mattered was like Everyday People by Sly and the Family Stone.
Sly and the Family Stone.
Yeah.
All the Beatles songs, Baby, You're a Rich Man Too. One of the great things about the Beatles was that even though they were fabulously, successful and like no other band had ever been, but they were very egalitarian and continually sort of put forth the idea that we are all in this together, and that there was nothing elite, about. Even if they had enough money to be able to, paint a Rolls Royce in like psychedelic colors, and sort of assault the straight world in the way that they did, and the way not everybody else could. Even if though they did that, they would say, like, they would give you songs like "Baby, You're a Rich Man Too," and give you the kind of the cue or the kind of the encouragement to live your life the way they lived theirs, and that was not about money. You know, it wasn't about, you know, all you need is love. There's nothing you can do that can't be said. Nothing you can do that can't be done. All the wisdom in those songs.
You just mentioned, Jackson, both sides of the 45, because it was All You Need Is Love and Baby You're a Rich Man was on the flip side. Now, on this new album, you do something which you've done before in the past, and I've always found it very fascinating, you know, in terms of your lyrical skill. But you are able to, in one sense, act as an advocate for a specific point of view about issues that are important to you without appearing to be preachy or stridently judgmental toward people who may have a different view of certain issues than you do. And I notice you do that by telling stories, you know, about people and places, and allowing people to get into the characters, in a sense, or the locations that you're singing about. For instance, you take us on a little trip to Haiti with Love is Love. And, you know, the Mexican border situation is extraordinarily contentious politically, as you know, and your approach is to introduce us to a specific young woman and tell us her story. And it's very interesting how you do that.
You know, I have to give credit to my co-writer on that song, my friend Eugene Rodriguez, who I mean, I had tried to write that song before. I had, it was sort of my original way of trying to write the Dreamer was about the situation at the border, was to try to describe the conflict. You know, the Klan's been down on the border. They say it's to keep law and order, and it was to launch straight into the conflict. And I couldn't really get that far with it. I never really understood why. And what it was that I was on the outside looking in. And when I met Eugene Rodriguez, and I showed him the beginnings of that song, and I had met him through Linda Ronstadt, and I was working with him because he has an organization that teaches the culture of the children of immigrants, the culture of their parents' homeland, which is to say that he teaches kids from Mexico whose parents are from Mexico, but who are Americans, but born here. He teaches them the culture, the songs, the instruments, the dances of their homeland, their parents' homeland, I should say, because their homeland is here. They're Americans. They live here. But anyway, we were working together, and so he began working on this song, and it was he who began and started telling the story of Lucina. And the girl in the song is somebody who was actually working on that session that I knew. And so it was a way into their life. And I thought, well, this really works really well, because you should see it from their point of view. They're coming to this country to give their lives. You know, you talk about giving your life for your country. They're giving their lives to this country. And I think so many immigrants. My grandmother was an immigrant. I'm sure all of our forebears are immigrants, but except for those of us who are Native American. And the idea that just got here is less worthy than someone whose family's been here for a long time I think it's absurd on the face of it. The fact is, it's what you have inside you now, what you want to give, and what you have to offer. You know, and so the best lines in the song are his, and I on his behalf, I'll accept the compliment you just paid me, because it is a difficult thing to talk about things that are controversial, that people have contentious views about, because the idea, of course, is to persuade. What you want to do, you want people to see it your way, and that's difficult to do. And you can't do it if you can't be evangelical about it. You can't. I mean, there are things that I can say with certainty, and it has to do with love. these are universal ideas that we can all agree upon. But when you assert, when you expound on your point of view, and you're absolutely, I mean, I found this out. One of my songs that I called "Alive in the World," it basically says in so many words that life is worth living, and I wanted, but if you say it at the top of your lungs, like you're absolutely certain, it doesn't work. You have to say it as if you're not sure. You have to say it after having considered that possibly it's not going to work, or it's not, So I found that out because I was singing this song with like a really, up tempo, like fiercely, proclamatory song, and I just thought, what's wrong with this, And when it wasn't until I sang it really quietly to myself, saying, I want to live in the world, I want to stand and be counted, with the hopeful and the willing, I want to, this idea of telling people what you have, or what you hope for. And if I'm ever stuck writing a song, I found that I can just try to figure out how to say what I want, and that's the thing that generally will focus the whole song in terms of what, and I don't know, that like I say, you can really go wrong when you try to tell people something.
You have been a musical activist of one sort or another, and you have attached your name and talents to certain causes over the decades. But one thing that I personally have always found admirable about the way that you communicate to an audience is that your values seem so earnest.
Mm-hmm.
You don't seem like an artist who's jumping on the latest fashionable bandwagon in order to be cool. It seems as if the beliefs that you have are deeply held, and you, in an almost intimate way, share those beliefs with your audience. And so whether one agrees with you or not on any specific issue, one can certainly always respect you as you're on the stage advocating for your particular point of view. Not all artists are able to pull that off.
Well, I think that it's a matter of just personal discovery. If you're telling somebody that what you're concerned about, or what you worry about, what you care about, it's worth listening to for a while. It's what I think that some of my audience was really concerned at a certain point when I began to sing about songs. If you're singing about songs that they're not acquainted with the subject. Everybody knows feels something about love, or the most fundamental, circumstances of life, loss, love, loneliness. But if you start talking about America's involvement in Central America, people don't know what that's been, it's like, it'd be like singing a song about, oh, well, actually, you'd probably do better singing about baseball or something, because with the people that keep with something that people keep track of. But at a certain point, I think this was a turning point for me. I thought I had to explain. There was a song I wrote about Central America, and I thought I had to explain it before singing it so they'd know about it, which then turned it into a lecture.
Right.
And I thought, really feel I could tell people were sort of like, they were shifting from foot to foot like a bear in the zoo. Like they were like, oh, no, wait, don't. Because they feel I should know more about this. Really should. They feel uncomfortable because they're in touch with it. And so what I found kind of too late was that don't introduce the song. Don't tell them anything. Just sing the song. The song
Right.
is not enough of an introduction. And even if their 5-minute song goes by and they don't get it, there's the next song, and maybe they'll get that one. But it goes by much better if you don't try to explain anything.
Shelley Sunstein's husband, John, has said that you are his favorite artist.
And actually, yes, he has a
and-
question. I wanted
yeah.
to ask his question to you, Jackson Browne, his favorite artist, but mostly songwriter. He wanted to know if what inspires your songwriting today is different than when you were much younger. What inspired you then?
Well, that's a good question, because I think that it's the way it works is the same, but I mean the subjects, the things themselves that I sing about. I don't want to repeat myself, even though I think that I inevitably do eventually wind up singing a song that is very much like another song I wrote. That doesn't sound the same, not even the same subject. Like in a way, My Cleveland Heart is Doctor My Eyes, only because it's about loss of innocence, or it's about your loss of the idea that you can't see anymore because you've seen too much, or the idea that your heart doesn't work anymore because it's felt too much. It's kind of the same idea. So in a way, I'm really doing the same thing that in that song that I did in an earlier song, without knowing it until later. You don't think of that when you're doing it, but I don't want to repeat myself. So there's one song, per subject, and that takes me a long time to write. You don't want to write the same song over and over again. So I don't know. Sometimes I'll be trying to write a song, and I have a line just forever, just for a long time, and I think, what am I trying? What do I mean by that? Why do I care? Why does that line keep coming back to me, or why do we keep? And sometimes it takes writing the whole song to find out. Like on my song "Until Justice Is Real," I mean, that's the end of the title of the song, and the end comes at the end of the song, and it's really in that last verse that I figure out what I really would feel. And the rest of the song is setting up all these questions. Like it's a good question. It's a good question to be asking yourself: what is well-being? What is health? These are good questions, and I really ask a lot of them before the song turns into the song. And it's the rallying cry for an organization that I support and keep track of, called Color of Change. And so I started in the last verse saying, well, what is that, I don't even know the lyric. This is a song that I finished a few months ago.
Well, you can't remember all of the lyrics to all of the songs. There's not enough space in one person's head to remember them all.
It wouldn't be a concert of mine if I didn't forget some of the words in the course of the night one time or other. Because I don't use the teleprompter. But no, and it ends with, putting your shoulder to the wheel and keep it moving until justice is real. And I found myself down, and the question of what can I do becomes answered, by the end of the song. There's usually, if I can set up some questions and then somehow, at least in some part, resolve them, or at least the part about what to do or how. Sometimes it's a good idea to resist the idea to finish a song in that way. Like I had a song very early on that was about my girlfriend being pregnant, and that I was, the parenthood was impending, and the whole last verse is just bull. It's just terrible. She hated it. I only found out later that she really hated this, because I became glib, and I was kind of joking about it. Of course, as we all know, it's no joke. Bring a child in the world is the most solemn responsibility, and it's the most joyous thing, but it's also I try to joke my way out of this song. And man, finally somebody covered this song and left the last verse off, and I thought, oh, you could just simply say, well, oh, she's pregnant and it looks like we're gonna have a baby, and I don't know anything more than that. I don't know how that's gonna be like, and that would have been fine just to, bless my soul, she's got a rock and roll band, man, thinking about settling down is a good place to leave it, not, Or maybe
wherever it was you were taking it.
Well,
Well, I think Zoom didn't want you to finish the last part of that song either, because it was making it very hard to understand.
and they've improved it in some great way, fundamental way. They just don't do the part that doesn't work, and then you find it out. I used to learn so much about my songs by my friends singing them. Matter of fact, they sang them before I sang them. But then I also was recording them, and that's why I wanted to sing. I think because I thought, well, I heard somebody do one of my songs. And I think, no, you got to do it this other. You have to throw these lines away. You can't do that dramatically. So I began singing them myself. But eventually, like when Bonnie Raitt learns one of your songs, and you go, oh, so that's how it goes. Oh.
Well, the new album is called Downhill from Everywhere, and you will be out performing. The pandemic coming to an end, things are opening up. You are going to be out on the road, right?
Yeah. It's starting in the right at the end of July for all of August and September, all of the rest of the year. I mean, I think.
And here, Jones Beach, 827, I hear, and PNC Bank Arts Center, 828, because I already sent my husband on a mission to buy tickets for you and James Taylor.
Yeah.
I hope I got those dates right.
What a magnificent lineup that is.
Yes.
Jackson Browne and James Taylor.
Yeah.
To be on tour with James is going to be a real joy. We've done a couple of shows before in the past, and it's just amazing because when he's sort of like an older brother, like he was kind of started making records a couple of years before I did, and I kind of followed him and his producer Peter Asher from place to place. I mean, kind of like worked in studios and worked with engineers, and actually like began working with the musicians that played with him in the beginning, my first record. I mean, he's really kind of he's been a guide to me in a lot of ways, and not least in the way he wrote songs and what he sang about. So this is he's been a big influence on me, but also he's a good friend, and he's one of the funnier people on the planet. And I learned so much from going to his shows, just how to, so to be on tour with him is a joy, and his band, a lot of his band members and my band members are really great friends, and it should be like I can't imagine a better tour to. I do like a month with him, and then I'm going to do a month by myself, and then back playing with him. And Bonnie Raitt's touring with him in Canada.
Wow.
For September. So during that time, I won't be on a road with him, but it's great because it's tremendous discipline to have the opportunity to sing to our combined audiences, to bring them together is a real thrill for me.
Well, Jackson Browne, thank you so much for spending time with us this morning. Congratulations on the new album, and we look forward to seeing you later this summer here in our area, live on the stage.
Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you.
New York's classic rock, Q1043.